versus Mark Levin on national emergency. I'm going to explain why they're both correct and why neither one is wrong and why they're both right and why one says you're going against the Constitution and the other one says that you're not if you do national emergency and why they're both correct. And I'll tell you why, even though they seem to appear to be oxymorons, I'll explain why they both can still be correct. And the reason they still both can be correct is because one is basing it on Trump and his actions or lack thereof, and the other one's basing it on the threats on the border and what's going on the border. Now let's start with Trump and his actions or lack thereof. Trump did not do this day one that he got sworn in back in January of 2017, in late January. That's when he should have done this. And it's like 2 years and a month to the day when he got inaugurated that he finally decided to declare a national emergency. And then after that, he's not putting troops on the border, and he's not moving quickly, and he's also not on a daily basis constantly barraging CNN and MSNBC with border talk about give me the wall, and every day coming out fighting for the wall, going to Congress, doing pressers, doing a nightly or at least a weekly address to the nation on the wall, and a daily briefing every day mentioning the wall and stuff like that. So he's not aggressively fighting for the wall. He's putting troops on the border wall, and he's taking 2 years and a month to do it since he got inaugurated. So that's why people are saying it can't be an emergency if he's not fighting, if he's not doing it. An emergency is something you need to do right now. Emergency, like what is an emergency when he's not quickly doing anything? And so it's like if Trump doesn't think it's that much of an emergency, then why is he doing a national emergency declaration? If people are really threatened and really being threatened and really are having issues with this, then you would need to move quicker. So he's not responding. So obviously there's nothing going on. So if it's nothing going on, it doesn't qualify for national emergency, because national emergencies, like for hurricanes and for wars, that you need to bomb quick because they're doing something you need to protect another country with, like serious gasless people, and you think you need to bomb it to say no. You need to quickly be able to do it without having to go through Congress, or maybe a storm hits and you need to rescue people right away because they're in trouble, like with Katrina and New Orleans and the floods and everything. You're doing that as an emergency state, which is stupid, but that's an emergency to where you get down there and get the people you need to save people quickly so they don't die in the floods. That's what typical national emergency is. And so this does not apply to that or even, appear to be any of that in the definition of what it is. That's the reason that Joe Walsh thinks it's not a national emergency. And that Joe Walsh is right. Trump is not acting like it's a national emergency, so it sounds like it's not a national emergency because it's not fit the definition of what a national emergency is. Joe Walsh says, yes, we did pass national emergency, but this doesn't fit the definition. It's not a national emergency because there is no emergency like in any of his actions or sayings or no emergency thing is happening. We're not having to quick go to war, don't have time to go to Congress, or there's no bad storm, that you need emergency funds to go down there quickly. And so that's the reason that Joe Walsh is not, and if you base it on that and the lack of action from Trump, then Joe Walsh is right. And then that's why Joe Walsh is saying it's not a national emergency. It's not a national emergency because, it doesn't have all the characteristics of a national emergency. And I get that. But then here's why it also is a national emergency and why Mark Levin is also right. And I know you think they're oxymorons, but it's because Mark Levin is based on what's going down on the border and what's happening, regardless of how Trump's responding to it, and what doesn't sound or look like a national emergency. Even though Trump is poorly going after this and poorly fighting for this, it is still a national emergency, even though he may not be fighting aggressively as if it's a national emergency. It still is because of this. We got coyotes going to ranchers' property down in the southern border, and they're constantly crossing and going to ranchers and robbing and stealing and overtaking their property and taking it hostage. Like that one episode of Dallas when they had the whole J.R. Ewing family locked up in their house. It was in the first house, not the second house they used for Dallas from like two onward. It's like the first season. And the house that they used, they're locked up in there and held hostage. And so that's what it is. Like the coyotes go in there and take the house hostage, they rob you, they steal from you, and they put their families at risk. Plus, they also have drug smugglers and sex traffickers crossing the border and migrant children that they're putting at danger and at risk. And we lost Kate Steinle, and a couple months ago, an officer in California was killed and shot in January, and in Southern California. And all these illegals coming here, being anchor babies and being hidden in sanctuary cities. It is an emergency. It's draining our country, draining our United States, and putting people in sanctuary cities lives in danger because people could die like Kate Steinle. So it is a national emergency. It's just that Trump's not acting like it's a national emergency. He's not doing things that say it's a national emergency. So it's like if Trump is not even acting like it's a national emergency, and if it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, then it must not be, and it must be a duck, meaning not a national emergency. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and acts like a duck, then it must be a duck. And in this case, a duck is, he's ducking a national emergency. Otherwise, he'd be more aggressive and not ducking the issue and being more aggressive and dealing with it. Instead, he's just laid back. And so since he's acting like it's not a national emergency, then it must not be a national emergency. And so that's why Joe Walsh again thinks it's not a national emergency. Because on that, it's like, well, Trump's not doing any of this, so how bad can it be? I think that if you go with President Trump and how he's doing and fighting for this, it's not a national emergency. But if you go based on what's going on the border and down there at the border, then it is. And all the stuff that I said happens. So with Kate Steinle's murder and sanctuary cities and anchor babies and the cop a couple months ago getting shot in January and and all that, ranch handlers getting coyotes and crossing the border, putting our people at risk and security risk, then it is. And even though President Trump's not acting like it's a national emergency, it still is a national emergency. Let's go back to the national emergency itself. Is that constitutional? The actual law is. Now, Mark says it applies here, and Joe Walsh says it doesn't, because Joe Walsh is based on President's lack of action and lack of aggressiveness. And if he's not going to aggressively try to fight for this, then you know what? It's not a national emergency because he would be acting more quicker, more swifter, and putting troops on the border. And Mark says on all the stuff that these illegals pose to our country and what they're doing in sanctuary cities and people that they've murdered in the hands of illegals and the coyotes going to ranch handlers' property. And that's why Mark's saying it is a national emergency. And so it's like now we'll go to the actual law. It's a law constitutional. Yes, it is. In 1976, they passed it, giving Trump the authority to call a national emergency. Then in 82, they gave him the rest of the power to move funds from one area to another and improving the rest of it so then he can move those funds to that national emergency. So between 76 and 82, he can do this. It's just whether or not this fits it, and that's what the disagreement is. Joe Walsh and Mark Levin don't disagree that a national emergency is constitutional. They just disagree that whether or not this fits national emergency. Mark says it does. Joe Walsh doesn't think so. And so if it doesn't think so, then the use of it is unconstitutional, not the actual law. And the reason why I disagree is because one's based on Trump and lack of action or lack thereof, and the other's based on the situation, what's going on in the southern border, and all the illegals and what they're doing. And so Mike Lee voted against Trump's national emergency, and all these other people did as well, because, which is 12 of them, voted against it because I don't think it fits a national emergency. And I gotta believe it's because of Trump as well. Because I think Trump, and I think Mike, Ted Cruz out there, voted with Trump because he sees it and he lives in Texas and he knows that contrary, he knows all the people that are dying and ranch owners are getting their ranches hijacked. So that's why he says that it is. So once they send on what these people are doing and why it's a security risk and why it's a national emergency, what these 12 weaselly Republicans are basing on Trump, Trump, you need to be fighting harder. Every day you need to do a press release And you need to, when you address the media, you need to address the board every day with a press release and a briefing in a briefing room on the wall. And since you're not, you didn't put troops on the wall. These 12 ones that vote against it say nope. Therefore, it's not because they're based on the president and he's not acting like it, and we're not hearing like stuff like a hurricane or a war that needs to happen. It's not. It may not, on the surface appear to be a national emergency, and also companies with Trump may not be acting like it's a national emergency. It still does again mean that it's not a national emergency. It is. And one more thing, any of you that don't like the law we repealed, the 1976 law and the 82 law part, if you don't like those laws. But until they're repealed, he can use them. Just why you think that fits, the declaration of national emergency. And I think it does. Because whether Trump may not be fighting as hard as I think he should, I think he should do more. I think he should put troops on the border. I think he should be doing daily briefings on this every day. Trump should. But or at least Sarah Huckabee Sanders doing daily briefings. But here is the bottom line. It is still a national emergency. Because in spite of Trump and his lack of action, our daily briefings, our troops on the border, or whatever, it is still a national emergency because no matter what Trump does or doesn't do, it's not based on Trump, it's based on the illegals and what they do. And what they're doing is making it a national emergency. So therefore, that's why it is a national emergency. In spite of Trump, it is a national emergency. Even though he's not acting like it's a national emergency, it is. And I hope that explains it and makes it more understandable the different positions between Mark Levin and Joe Walsh. And I hope you understand why Mark's on one side and Joe Walsh is on the other side. But again, neither side is wrong because one's based on the actions of the illegals, and one's based on the actions of Donald Trump. That's why I kind of two different conclusions. And they both don't think the law is unconstitutional. They just both don't think that this applies to that law and that it doesn't fit the national emergency. And so that's why Joe Walsh thinks Mark Levin's going against the Constitution. And then why Mark Levin thinks that they're not upholding the Constitution and that he has other constitutional powers and they're wrong. And that's why he disagrees with them the other way. And Joe Walsh is making personal attacks on Mark, and Mark's not wrong because he's based on the right things. But because of lack of action of Trump, that's why he thinks that he is. So that Mark Levin's going against the Constitution is that if it doesn't, it's just that if it doesn't fit the definition of national emergency, if you base it on Trump, then that's not what the law was supposed to be. It's not a national emergency in that sense, because if it doesn't fit a national emergency, then he can't use it as a national emergency. If it's not a national emergency, so that means he's circumventing and overbearing his power, and therefore in that sense, that's why Joe Walsh is right in that sense. And so then when Mark then says, you know what, it's constitutional, and then you can do this, that's why Joe Walsh then is saying, you're going against the Constitution. And so if it's based on that, and, then I can see why he would say, Trump is choosing to sell out to the Constitution and selling out the Constitution and siding with Trump and being a Trumpette and a groupie. But here's the thing. Mark Levin is a constitutional scholar. And so I wouldn't get into a pissing contest, Joe Walsh, with Mark Levin over the Constitution, because he knows the Constitution. That's why he's a constitutional scholar. And whether you may not like the lack of action, fine. Say Trump needs to be more aggressive. Say Trump needs to put troops on board. Say Trump needs to act more like it's a national emergency. That's fine. And go off when Trump says he's not doing enough, or he's not being aggressive, or he's not doing press briefings, or at least Sarah Huckabee Sanders does press briefings on this every day on the wall. Fine, that's fair. That's what Joe Walsh should be doing. Joe Walsh should be criticizing Trump and saying he needs to do more. But not that it's not a national emergency, because it is. I think that's what Joe Walsh is making this misstep, but I'm just hoping you understand why Joe Walsh's position is why it is. And he thinks it's unconstitutional because of lack of action, but because you need to base it on what's going on the border, that's why it is constitutional, because it is national emergency, because we're at threat with these Mexicans, and so you just need to tell Trump to fight hard, that's all.